so welcome to quarterfinal one of the ESL competition. In opening, my name is Patrick. I'll be chairing this round. I have no preferred pronoun. Together with me are Adam, Poppy, Marks, and Catherine. Adam, no preferred pronoun. Poppy, Marks, no preference. Catherine,
she or they.
In opening government, we have Nabo Palasa, your names and also pronouns.
Below first, I prefer the pronoun she.
Right.
Second, and I prefer he.
So your name again? And you prefer?
He.
Right. In opening opposition, we have the team. It's not members, yes.
Gavin, he.
Yeah. Gavin, yeah.
He speaking first.
In closing government, we have the team Frodo.
Luna, he is speaking first.
From in closing opposition, finally we have Cersei Lannister.
I am speaking first, prefer pronoun he.
I'm looking for pronoun she.
Thank you very much. I look forward to an interesting debate. I call this House to order, and I call on the Prime Minister to start the debate.
Panel, for the mere fact that we have consumer protection agencies, for the mere fact that there is a concession to the fact that in society we need to prioritize protecting the consumer, that's a concession to the fact that we have profit maximizing businesses that seek to achieve the greatest profit. But given that this is the market under which most businesses operate, we think it's necessary that in maximizing profits, we implore businesses to ensure that they don't neglect prioritizing the safety of the #1 actor in today's debate, which is the consumer. We want companies and businesses and producers that prioritize the safety of the consumer, where the consumer is at the primacy of the manufacturing process, where they're not considered as an afterthought. But secondly, we incentivize prioritizing the safety of the consumer preemptively as opposed to retrospectively when harm has been done to the most important actor, which is the consumer. But also, what we prioritize is an approach to consumer safety, an approach that ensures that the consumer safety without subjecting them to legal processes that leave them in a vulnerable position, and legal processes that leave them exploited, and legal processes that are designed to work against the favor of the consumer in this debate. So for some contextualization, what I'm going to tell you is what consumer protection looks like under the no harm principle as well as competition. So under under competition, what happens is you have producers who are still told to sort of check their products before they're put on shelves. But instead of having an independent third party, so a protection agency doing this, it's left to the producers themselves. That means under the competition model, what happens is how safe your products is dependent on how stringent the producer decides to be with their quality check mechanisms. Okay, so you do have quality check, but to a very minimal degree, because as we've said, these are companies that are centered around maximizing profits. So it isn't in their best interest to prioritize these safety checks because they take time and they take money. However, under our model, what you have is you have an independent body that makes it mandatory for, first of all, the safety checks and the quality checks to take place. But secondly, a mandatory body that becomes an integral part of the process. They oversee it. They check that not only are quality checks being done, but that they're being done at the right level and with the right level of thoroughness. So what you do is you override you mitigate the harms of having a business that wouldn't do this thoroughly because they prioritize maximizing profits. Okay. And so under our context, what you have is you've got a third body who is qualified and they have no incentive to rush the process. They are objective and they have expertise, which means they will be able to weigh up the quality of the products. This is essential because once the product ends up on the shelf, we don't like the idea of there being retrospective action, because retrospective action implies that I need to file a lawsuit. I need to actively go and campaign against that business. And we know that legal processes are rigged against the man on the ground. The more power you have, the more finances you have in terms of co-opting the best legal advisory means you're in a position to win those cases. So we'd rather have an independent body with the expertise and the resources do it on behalf of the consumer, where they regulate the quality before you even have a situation where you now have to seek compensation because the quality wasn't regulated, particularly in a context where seeking compensation won't yield any benefits because legal practices are inherently skewed against you. So our burden of proof in today's debate is the fact that, first of all, if you prioritize stringent screening processes, you maximize the quality of the product out there. And secondly, this protects both the consumer as well as the retailer. And that therefore will be showing you how it's an impactful way of ensuring that legal processes trickle down to the man on the ground. Okay. But before I do that, let me engage closing.
Ma'am, surely companies are less likely to prioritize quality and safety checks if they know that there's this blanket that makes it harder for them to be held liable if there's a perception that their product is safe and good.
I've just shown you why companies aren't inclined to prioritize protection anyway, so you need to include a third party that does prioritize security tests, a third party that doesn't lose profits when they prioritize screening processes. Okay? So firstly, on the issue of how this product and this policy protects the consumer, first of all, the nature of these agencies is that they're experts. So they are able to see something is wrong before the product reaches the shelf. Whereas under the competition model, what would happen is I would need to have an intuitive knowledge that if anything goes wrong with my product, it was the product's fault, not mine. So as someone who isn't an engineer, if I end up in a car crash, how am I going to know that Toyota's manufacturing error was the reason why it happened? There's very little room for identifying that it wasn't even your fault, that the company's liable. Whereas if you do a screening process, you don't have to reach that level where something goes wrong and you wonder if it was your fault or no one's fault. In the event that you do intuitively suspect that the reason you had a car accident was because it was a manufacturing fault, you still need to have experts who are going to check all of that, and it happens at your expense, and you're only compensated in the event that you win the case. So we don't support this model, okay? But also, it prevents the blame shifting that happens in legal court cases, because we know they can always argue that it was one batch that was faulty. Whereas if you have a third party making sure you never have faulty batches, you mitigate that. But thirdly, it empowers the consumer, because sometimes consumers think in terms of fiscal benefits, in the case that it's better for me to be allowed to sue. But some harms can't be compensated with money. For example, if you end up in an accident because there wasn't a stringent check, you not being able to use your limbs, you can't ever be paid enough for that if you're allowed to sue. We'd rather you don't even get into the accident in the first place, because we've had stringent checks. Secondly, how we protect the producer. So because we've shown you that companies aren't inclined to prioritize safety checks because they cost a lot of money and time, when you introduce a third party, you force them to do something that's in their best interest. Because when their products aren't dangerous, when harmful products with malfunctions aren't ending up on shelves, it means that you insulate these bodies from the subsequent backlash or the subsequent consequences of having faulty products, because the faulty products aren't there. We've had a third independent party with the incentive to be objective and thorough do that. But also you get credibility. Sometimes people make unfounded claims about the quality of a certain brand's products. And when you know that every brand is having necessary, mandatory, stringent, thorough, regular checks, nobody can decampaign a product's credibility without a basis, because everybody's being held up to the same standard, which means that producers are generally credible actors that we can trust, because there's a third party ensuring that they do what's best for you, the consumer. But also, we feel like with lawsuits, you force them to be held accountable as opposed to having an easy out in the form of lawsuits. So what happens is now they're accountable to a third actor that has the same amount of lobbying power as opposed to a single consumer who would have to campaign against a huge giant, and we don't support that, obviously. So for the sake of maximizing the quality of products through stringent screening processes, for the sake of protecting both the consumer as well as the producer through accountability, we are very, very proud to propose.
Thank you very much for your speech. I look at the opposition and call upon the leader of opposition. Here again.
awkward seeing myself. It feels like prayer. So what opening government tries to bring us is this potential way up of a dynamic market with innovation, that should then take a back seat in trade to enhance like consumer benefit. But what we advocate is that you can actually have both of these under our model, and I'm going to explain that in my arguments throughout. So I've got three big arguments here. Firstly, company buy-in. Secondly, innovation. And three, the after effects. Before that, I've got 3 points of rebuttal. So firstly, on the problem with their model. So the thing is this side really eliminates the idea of accountability, because what we see is that in the cases where the people are harmed, they aren't given the option to sue in the first place. And we find out that's really problematic, because what happens to those people then if they have coffee spilled on their laps and they get burnt to crisps? So we think that that's problematic. Then secondly, on the idea of these legal processes, and like, this is a problem that's flawed like throughout this this whole tournament actually, because people don't really realize how lucrative it is for consumers to go and take on cases. People are profit driven. The thing is people are profit driven to such an extent that poor people in America actually do look for wet floors without the signs on so that they can sue people. You don't realize that a woman can get 12 million rand for coffee spilled over her in a McDonald's case. And we see that this is really problematic when they go and they say that, oh no, they're not going to hold the people accountable. So then on to the next point. So why it's wrong to overprotect the producer. As soon as I start with my first argument, I'll accept. But we have to talk about overprotecting the producer. So what we see here is that if producers aren't incentivized actually to have safe products, it's really easy for them to just be reckless and hope that the standards just accepts it and for it to be able to go through. So I'm going to start with my first argument here. Why companies won't be reckless in any case. So OG comes and they concede that that companies are profit driven. Now the thing is if you're profit driven, you have to look at the nature of the company as well. So if you are aware that you can be sued, two things happen. Firstly, you're going to lose a lot of money from being sued. And secondly, your reputation is going to be infringed upon drastically. Now why that's important? So number one, buyers are going to be less incentivized to buy your products, which is really, really important. And then secondly, we see that shareholders are going to be less incentivized to buy your stocks as well. So ultimately, all of the fuel and all of the funding going behind your company is also being lost. So we see that there's direct accountability happening under our model that they don't have under theirs. So what we see is that people, under the model that we're propagating, we'll see that there's a bigger likelihood for these companies not to be reckless in the first place, because the blame's not going to go and fall over onto the ratings agency. So we've already proved that that's an important factor. So the so what here is, what we're going to have under our model, you have products that are safer and better, you have better consumer products, and you have people that are going to be safer because they are aware of the backlash. So the thing is you're going to have a more effective economy because it's going to be able to hold one another actually accountable, which we don't have under their model. So another idea is that the harm is going to be ultimately minimalized because of this effect that's going to happen directly to the company and not going to happen on the ratings agency. Then we have to talk about how third parties in this case are actually going to be the consumer. So what we see is that consumers will in effect be a better rating agency than what it is that the ratings agency is, because consumers are going to put their products through the highest possible forms of tests through individual use, because these people are profit driven. And I'll tell you that in most cases, most attorneys are willing to take on lucrative pro bono cases, in which case if they win, then they're willing to receive an amount from their consumers. We see that that's quite the norm in advocates and attorneys that go up against big corporations. So the big corporations are really going to lose throughout here. And since people just really want to have more money, generally, we believe that this is an effective way. I'll accept from closing. Please tell me you have something. Okay, cool. A little bit later. So we're going to save them time to innovate. This is also a really important point. So we have to look at why it's wrong for these rating agencies to take their effects. So what we see is that the norm, the general idea with SABS standardized ratings is it takes between 5 and 6 months to have a rigorous tests. Now the thing is this goes on after your individual tests have already taken place. So I'm going to show you why this is specifically detrimental. So if we look at the development of currently like growing fields materials, and you look at new innovations in green energy specifically, or new low-cost housing methods, we find that it's really important that we get these products out as soon as possible to be able to help and benefit the highest amount of people at the quickest rate. And the reason that this is important is because we want these people's lives and their utility to be maximized to the fullest extent, which is kind of obvious. But what we see is that if they're forced to have to go through these screening processes, you still have the same product. But what you're doing is instead of it going through two processes, now instead of going through one process, now it's going through two, and that's taking between 4 and 6 months longer for these processes to enter the market. So it's negatively affecting the company, because the company could have already had this product out and could have already been helping the market. And another thing is it could have been, it's detrimenting the consumer, because the consumer has got 6 months later only to actually go and buy the product. We think that this is really important. Listen, it's 5:30. Give me a POI. Closing. Okay, I'm going to keep on, think about it. The what if idea. So what we see is that under their model, in the cases where harms really do go through, we see that it does, where harms really do flow through, it's really problematic, because these harms are not taken into account. It's just the ratings agency that just gets like a little slap on the wrist, instead of the people being able to be held, the companies, accountable. Our model allows for this accountability because they can sue in these cases, and besides that, there will be in the minimum cases that they actually will sue because the company has an incentive quickly.
So what you're saying is you're putting the greed of the companies over the health of the people?
No, you're understanding me wrong. The greed of the companies is parallel to the health of the people, because the people want health and the companies want the benefit that they're going to get from the product. Those two goes together. So what we see is that ultimately, in the minimum of cases where there is harms that are going to happen, the companies are going to really, they're going to try to minimize these harms to the greatest extent. And also, we have to look at the nature of these harms. So with consumer products, generally, you have very little harm in the first place. But in the cases that these people can actually go and sue. So the people are going to receive a benefit if they're harmed in any case. And we see that this is going to be like beneficial to them under any case. And if these people then can't sue, or if these people don't want to sue, then we don't think that it's really a sufficient harm for you to actually advocate for in the first place. So what we're doing is we are empowering the consumer, but we're also at the same time empowering the producer. And we think that this is really important, because we think through this motion, not only do you have companies that are more held more accountable, but what you also have is you have an increase in innovation. You have better products, and you have better consumers, and you have a better market. This is the way to go. We're so proud to propose.
Thank you very much for that speech. Back to the government, and I call upon the Deputy Prime Minister.
Something funny happened from side opening opposition. Not funny strange, but funny ha-ha strange. And the reason why I say so is because of the premise that they've established that it's going to be problematic within today's debate. So before I get into my rebuttal, I'd like to point out this really huge contradiction before I actually move forward, right? We said the first member of opening opposition has come forward with a really interesting classification. He tells you that the consumer is always placed in a position where the only interest that they want is to shake down these producers and these retailers for every little thing that they have. But the utmost thing that they value from side opposition is the fact that they actually can sue, and they generally believe that they're able to hold these people accountable accordingly at the fact that they will sue at the moment where it matters. So we tell you that it's essentially problematic for them to rely on an actor that they classify as somewhat problematic to solve the issues that they identify with producers as well as those products. We tell you that from the very beginning, they're already thinking they need to reevaluate their case, right? So now let's actually get into the analysis, let's get into the analysis of the debate. And before I get into my issue of positive matter, I'm going to be dealing with two major thematic ideas from side opening opposition, right? First of all, this idea of accountability. So under this, we get this idea that, okay, we like the absence of this independent body because one, these general producers fear the idea of being sued, right? But then we feel like this is a mischaracterization of these producers. First of all, they don't take into account the size of these kind of producers, right?
Yeah.
Take Lucky Star, for instance. We know that that's an essentially what you call popular product within certain places, especially in my hometown. And in so doing, we tell you that with those kind of products, right, they actually get sent out to retailers, and retailers tend to package them and then sell it off to society. What does that specifically mean? That they produce in exceptionally large batches, right? And then when they ship them off, that within the transport transporting process, right, it's not necessarily all that clear as to what might incur once it's actually delivered from the producers to the retailers in and of itself. There are a lot of factors beyond it being created that can contribute to the damage of that overall product. What does that specifically mean? That generally means that even if they take it upon themselves out of fear of screwing up, not taken, that the products generally can still reach these retailers and be somewhat problematic. And we tell you that this is often overlooked, right? But then secondly, we tell you that retailers in and of themselves always tend to fall in the line of fire when dealing with supplying these products. So that when the consumer is generally interested in what happened with the product that they consumed that was generally harmful to them, they not necessarily look at Sunlight and whatever a Unilever as a producer and holding them accountable, but then your local spaza shop and hold them accountable for the fact that they were shipping off goods that were generally not that great and not that well accounted for, right? Which is that's problematic in and of itself. But then we look at the second idea, right? And this is this idea of harms that basically occur off of situations where consumers then get harmed, become victimized by these retailers and these what you call producers in and of themselves. And the argumentation that we get here, which is really circular and self-defeating, was that basically that we think that accountability already exists enough when the person gets victimized. And Bilo effectively shows you that once you actually have this independent third party, you get rid of you lessen the chances of that person becoming victimized to begin with. We don't like the idea of the consumer taking action once they've incurred a harm. We like the idea of minimizing the probability of that harm before they actually get to actually be exposed to that very product, right? Now that I've effectively dealt with everything that you've read, I'd like to give you an opportunity to defend yourself.
So the thing is, under your model, there's no retribution for the person in the cases that they are harmed in the first place.
Well, the thing is, we like the idea of a minimized probability of that harm actually occurring. We don't like people falling under harm and then having to think about what to do. We don't like that. We like the idea of having a safe means to work from, and that's something that we genuinely appreciate. Now I'm going to get into my positive matter, right? And my issue under this is basically how it enhances the buying power that basically the consumer has, right? So under their model, right, the issue that they generally have with the consumer is the fact that once they actually incur harm, they value the priority that they essentially have, which is to file for a lawsuit and hold producers accountable. But the issue but we tell you that within the analysis, the existence of the third party actually enhances the idea of holding people accountable, whether it be the consumer directly, whether it be insurance companies that would do so on the behalf of the consumer. We tell you that it's genuinely enhanced. Why does that specifically happen, right? We tell you that with the size of producers in and of themselves, right, they produce large batches of goods, which generally means that even if they tend to look through a lot of these goods, it's bound to happen that workers from the producer perspective are bound to overlook certain goods. What happens when the third independent party becomes a factor within the production process? What happens then is that they genuinely step in, get involved and check on an independent level and prioritize the very functionality of stepping in and just dealing with checking and processing and screening the general goods of these very qualities. What does that specifically mean? The producer is already tasked with so much, the production, the packaging, checking to see the quality, already has the idea of quality further extended beyond their own responsibility to make sure that is something that is effectively maximized. First conclusion, that once they actually exist, it helps in maximizing this idea of quality beyond what the producers could do, right? But then secondly, we look at the consumer's front, right? We tell you that holding these businesses accountable doesn't lie solely on the idea of the consumer, right? So that it also embodies elements such as insurance companies that might need to actually assess the situation in order to make sure that the consumer is making a valid claim, right? What happens in this regard? We tell you that it goes beyond the idea of the the uncertainty of where to assign the blame within a certain case. We're not too sure if whether the store is actually somewhat held accountable for the fact that they were overlooking their duties and how they choose to package and shelve their products, or whether or not it was actually on the producer's responsibility to actually produce quality products. So that their existence in and of itself help rule out as many possibilities when assessing these kind of situations. So what does that specifically mean? That when dealing with the consumer, and even if it were to reach your extent, it happens much better with our model, generally because you're presented with far more information and far more expertise when handling with these products that, one, help with the production train, as well as two, help further protect the consumer. So what I've shown you essentially within my speech, right? That one, a lot of the argumentation that was brought up by opening opposition doesn't necessarily stand because it's predicated on a circular argument that's somewhat self-defeating. And that secondly, that once you actually allow for this independent third body, it actually allows for an enhanced process for the consumer as well as the producer. With that said, opening up.
I thank you very much for that speech, and to round off the opening half of the debate, speaking for the opening opposition, I call on the Deputy Leader. Yeah.
So, Mr. Speaker, members of the House, I hate being a bitch, but the problem is that you call our case funny when yours was a legitimate joke because of the logical issue that you made. Let me tell you that they agree that there are actually legitimate harms that can happen within the production process of these products that happens after quality checks. So they agree that legitimate harms happen and that their model isn't perfect, right? But under the model, we still have no accountability for when people are harmed by these products. And yet, I'm going to repeat this, they also told us that harm can happen in like production process and whatever, like these products can become harmful. Okay, so the three main things that I'm going to be talking about today is where do we get the least harm to society? Secondly, the difference between avoiding detection of harm and actually avoiding causing harm, right? And thirdly, like, why is accountability important, where we get the most accountability under our model, right? Okay. By removing this unnecessary middleman, actually. So firstly, some individual points of rebuttal. Okay, so when we talk about this third party, right, we're telling you that what Davin means with his McDonald's example, and we're telling you that we have the power in the hands of the consumers, right? We don't think consumers are necessarily exploitative beings, but the thing is, right, that we think that the legal system, no, because I'm going to deal with this now, the legal system is set in place that we can avoid people being unnecessarily exploitative, it can avoid those actual harms that they're trying to talk to you about, because we do have that in place, okay? That's why we're keeping the companies liable for the harms that happen, okay? And we're telling you that consumers are the people who have a real incentive, actually, to keep them accountable for what they do because of the money that they can get out of that, right? We're telling them that they won't be getting money unfairly, as Gov is trying to make you believe. Now, secondly, what we need to look at is that we get a more accessible market, and they didn't really touch upon our argument here, right? So because products now cost less, you're removing that unnecessary middleman, and we get like a better economy and a more accessible market. I think Davin explained this a lot better than I can. Okay, so yes, and they also mischaracterized our legal system on a whole, because like if there's no real harm, there won't be any backlash. Okay, so what we need to look at now, fourthly, is that they tell us that harm happens anyway. That's essentially problematic in their case, right? Because we're telling you that consumers need, what we have under their model is lazy consumers because they're not going to be held accountable for harm for like their products becoming harmful through production processes, right? So when we have lazy consumers, we have problems with harmful products slipping through the cracks, right? But under our model, what you get is that they have a responsibility to create products that don't become harmful in the normal processes of creating this product, right? We can't just excuse the consumer for when their products aren't effective enough, right? Under the model, we have no real accountability. Not now, thank you. Okay, I'd like to clash with closing, just like for the future. I think we're dealing with your argumentation. Okay, so quickly. Like just a quick point, we're not suing the distributor, we're suing like the creator of the product. Sixthly, okay, now what we want to do is we want to actively avoid harm, right? And that's what we get under our model. Where under their model, there's no legitimate backlash, and we have lazy producers. Then lastly, the whole assumption that their case is based on is that these third parties, and the problem is that third parties are also, the middleman isn't held accountable if they make a mistake, right? That's also a problem, because then they don't have a real incentive to be doing their jobs properly. They pretend that this third party is perfect and responsible and will be like avoiding any legitimate harm forever. Okay. Because of the problem, there's no accountability to the third party either. Now, first argumentation here, right? Where do we get the least harm? So we're telling you that because of two specific issues and forms of backlash that we get under our model, we minimize harm to the most effect, right? Firstly, because these companies actively lose money, they're profit-driven, they want to make money, that's why they sell products, right? But now, because they can actually lose money by having less effective or harmful products, they're more incentivized to make sure that their products aren't harmful. But under their model, if harmful products can slip through the cracks, they don't lose any profit and they aren't held accountable. Secondly, their reputation is affected, right? And then they also lose funds because less people will want to buy their products because they see that they are being sued. Okay, second argument. Okay, so the difference between avoiding detection and avoiding harm, which is really important, because we can tell you if it is cheaper to set things in place that make a product that you can't detect the harm, companies will be more incentivized to just like create these things that you can't detect the harm of the product instead of actually legitimately minimizing the harm that a product can do. What they also don't deal with is like a legitimate problem of corruption, right? And you can bribe the third party to still let your product go out into consumer state because there is no accountability. If you can do that, you can still make all this profit off your product. Second point, under the difference between avoiding detection and avoiding harm. What we're doing by avoiding harm is because there's like a real incentive by having more accountability, right? Because of the harsh backlash that you actually get, and under their model, there is legitimately no backlash. The problem with that is, right, if we don't have backlash, we have lazy producers who will still try to make their products only be able to like avoid the detection of harm instead of making them legitimately less harmful. So now what we need to look at is that under our model, we get legitimate forms of accountability. So what happens is that accountability carries through and by having less harmful products. Because under their model, we can have quality of products as a whole being lessened because now, because of competition with the quality harshly going down, right? Because people aren't incentivized to have legitimate quality products. So under our model, because we have more accountability towards the producer and the consumer, right? We feel like we are very proud to oppose today's motion.
Thank you very much. Thanks to the first half of this debate. To open the closing half, I call up Martin and Monica.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. So what we get from opening opposition is that we will remove the middleman, and basically companies have the right to fuck you any way they want. Now this is problematic because we asked them a beginner POI, a simple POI, and they want to answer us by saying no. They're both satisfied because their needs are parallel, right? But okay, that is problematic because we look at the two different incentives. One of them is to get a certain product, and one of them is to get money. Now, if you remove that middleman, that company has the right to do anything they want because they just want to make money, right? I will make an example for you with Norox Spice, right? Norox Spice basically makes you shit the whole day, right? Now, we believe such things are problematic because they bring them out in large quantities because their incentive is money. But people's incentive is to receive a certain good that will help them, right? Now the problem is we need to protect the people, right? We need to protect the people from themselves because they want a certain product at the expense of their health. And we say no, your health is pivotal because after you get sick from this, then now you have to go to a hospital and tell them you're shitting the whole day. You need to pay them money, right? Okay, quickly, please.
Speaker, people aren't irrational beings. We make the best decisions for ourselves. And secondly, surely if you shit all day, you have the right to take the people to court and hold them accountable for that product that makes you shit.
Oh, basically that's also screwing the opening government because if you have a right to sue, it basically tells you that something is wrong in the whole process, right? That is where we need to focus, right? Okay, firstly, we need to look at the role of this agency. The role of the middleman is to basically protect the consumer from harm because the consumer is pivotal to the success of the company, right? Okay, number one, let's start with the trade-off, right? Because okay, they're gonna say what about the company and how the company releases in quantities? Maybe they'll have trouble. But what we are saying is, fuck the company. If you cannot maneuver in the market, you are not a company. That is economics 101. If you cannot produce the best products, the best quality products, then you do not deserve to be a company. That is the model we are running, and that is the premise we run it on. And we also think it is good for either side of this agency, which is the company and the consumer, because number one, there might be a health problem with this product. It's more expensive now to go pay people for medical health than it is to basically prevent it and not buy this product and go to another product at all. We also, on the other hand, the company that is producing the product stands to lose through suits, as opening government has tried to show you, and you will lose customers because there is a reputation associated with a certain product. And therefore, if there's a reputation associated with a product, and that product is associated with making you shit for the whole day, then a lot of people will not buy that product, right? We believe do not get that product there in the first place because it is problematic to that person's health, and this agency must play the mediator in this whole process. No, sit down. I'd like to move on to the problem we have, right? Because okay, companies are worried about money and they don't give a crap as long as they sell products. That is basically the whole thing. Okay.
So if the company knows that it can lose millions in civil lawsuits, surely then it must know that certain quantities must be in check in order for that product not to cause harm, in order for them not to lose money in those lawsuits.
No, big companies know that they have the money to spend, right? Therefore, they don't give a crap. They will put them. That is exactly what is wrong with OO's case, because big companies already have the enough funds that they can say, okay, even if one person comes and sues us, who gives a shit? We can just give them 500,000 and therefore they will leave our site. The problem here is we need a mediator in this whole process. We need someone who is there to mediate this whole situation in getting the product there in the first place and stop this company from having the leeway to abuse their right of selling a certain product. No, sit down. Now, I'd like to also elaborate on the point I brought of the image, right, of the company, the company that is manufacturing the product, right? Okay, a problem we meet is that a product has a certain image attached to it, class, whatever it may be. So we believe that that image itself needs to be protected. That is why I said that company can also benefit, right? That image is protected because you are protecting people from the harms, right? So if there's a mediator to stop this whole process, you are also protecting the image of the company, and you're in a certain way making people think that this company actually gives a fuck. But even if they don't, essentially, we believe that this mediator can help in such instances and can help in everything.
So firstly, you come up to the podium and you tell us that we must fuck the company. Then here you try to convince us that we must protect the company. Which side are you on?
Okay, this must be the most ridiculous POI I've ever received since the beginning of my debate career, right? Because we say there are benefits for the company through our model, because if this company wants to use the competitive principle, then screw them. They do not know how to maneuver in the market. That is what we are saying. I hope you understand so that you don't come here and fuck up. And okay, basically that is our premise. We just showed you that that OO failed because their premise basically gives their alternative basically gives the company a leeway to do whatever they want. Therefore, they can screw over their consumers because their incentive is very different from the incentive of the consumer. Incentive drives behavior, people, and we need to focus on that because this is two different incentives. And if your incentive is to make money, therefore you can screw anyone else just to get that one thing, which is money. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your speech. I would like to remind the members to stay within the parliamentary language when referring to other members, and having said that, I call upon the leader of the member of opposition.
Mr. Chair, today I'll be giving you an evaluation of the current status quo and how the current status quo is failing with the South African Bureau of Standards, a third party that still allows for people to be violated by products. But firstly, I'll be providing you that these bodies or these mechanisms still leave room for companies to escape other forms of liability. I'll also be giving you an analysis of the efficacy of liability as a means of consumer protection. I'll be giving you that best protection is under our model, and fourthly, Mr. Speaker, I'll be showing you that liability forces companies to produce a great product, right? But first, a bit of a bulk of rebuttal, right? Closing government comes in. Closing government comes here and they want you to believe that businesses perform business in a rational manner, right? Saying that they only gain 10 Rand and they're willing to lose 100,000 Rand just because they don't feel like they should go through the mechanisms of providing standards, right? And they totally ignore such opening opposition when they come up here and they tell you that these means of liability forces companies in order to produce the best product out there so that they can escape being sued for millions of rands, right? But Mr. Chair, what I'd like to give you is that the current status quo is that products should go through the South African Bureau of Standards, right? What this means is that certain products need to pass a certain evaluation check, right? So that these products are not harmful to society, right? The fact that current lawsuits still arises from the current status quo, even if a body, a third party such as the South African Bureau of Standards, it means that not 100% protection can be advocated to these products, meaning that there is still room for products to cause harm to citizens, meaning that their mechanism does not allow citizens to hold businesses accountable where harm is created, right? But firstly, then the opening government comes up here and they tell us that it is hard to a certain liability or whatever to the person who caused you the harm to the product, right? What we feel is that the current judiciary system allows for you to allocate the real cause of where your product or where the harm comes from, right? We tell you that the 5 elements of a delict make sure that the person who causes harm to you is allocated so that you can hold these people accountable, right? We also feel that the legal system is not biased to only consumers, right? And we feel that it protects everybody and it's an objective assessment, right? But the last thing, it says the size of producers, and it says that these producers, we don't know where liability occurs, right? But what we're trying to say is that if there is a irregular means of getting the product to the customer, but we're saying that this form of liability forces producers in order to find the best and healthy mechanism in order to get the best and healthy product to the consumers. But now that I've dealt with my rebuttal, I'd like to go on to my part of matter, right? But firstly,
you tell us status quo currently doesn't ensure products because you still have lawsuits. That's because currently we aren't prioritizing safety checks and thorough checks by third parties. We still subscribe to the competition method partially. That's why you still have lawsuits, because you aren't subscribing to our model fully.
Okay. My first point, Mr. Chair, is that it leaves room for companies to be held to escape other forms of liability, right? By saying that the product has been screened, right? So only ideal products will go through this assessment, especially where mass production exists, right? Because if mass production exists, it is impossible in order to bring out the best sort of products out there. At the same time, they must go through this evaluation process, right? So in order to give you a simple scenario, 1 or 10 out of 100 products will only be assessed, right? This leaves room for 90 products to cause harm to the people, right? And if companies say that no, my product has been screened, it makes it impossible for these people to hold these companies liable for the damage that has been caused, right? We feel that this is very problematic because people cannot hold those accountable for the harm or the detriment that they go through. No, thank you, right? And it can be easy for companies to assert liability to the customer, right? In saying that my product has been screened, therefore if the product causes detriment to you, that means you used the product wrong, and it shifts the liability from the consumer, from the producer to the consumer, right? We feel that maximum protection is given to consumers because it protects the harms to them, regardless of the design of manufacturing, right? Because I'm also gonna give you the liability that forces the companies to produce a great product, right? But what this is, it incentivizes companies to only get their best products out there, right? Because the less harm the product causes, the more people that can get to buy the product and more profits can be derived from it, right? But Mr. Chair, what I'd like to give you is the analysis of the efficacy of liability as a means of consumer protection, right? We say that in order for you to hold companies liable, you have to prove the 5 elements of a delict, especially in civil suits, right? We see that fault has to be proven, right? That the product actually caused the harm that you had, right? We see that wrongfulness must be tied, right? In order to that the harm that was caused was very detrimental and did not add to the healthiness or the benefit of your own health, right? We feel that the causal link also has to be made, right? The fact that the harm that you're experiencing is caused by the product that you have, right? This efficacy, or the judiciary system that's currently in the status quo allows for people to allocate where the detriment has come from, and it also holds people accountable, especially businesses that put out products that are detrimental, right? Now, Mr. Speaker, or Mr. Chair, what I'll be doing to you today is giving you who gives the best protection to the consumers, right? We say we give consumers maximum protection because the burden of a perfect product is erased, right? So we stop consumers from claiming for arbitrary reasons, hence company protection is also ensured underneath our model, right? For example, the judiciary system, where people can't just go out there and claim, they have to prove certain elements before that their claim can be valid, right? But in the event of the product causes harm, right? In their model, no direct liability can arise, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, we feel that their model is detrimental, right? But what we're saying is, aside closing opposition, is that these third parties can still exist, right? In the assessment and the evaluation of the product, right? What we feel is that it is very detrimental for you to take away what consumers can use to hold those companies directly liable, right? What we are saying is that irrespective of these third parties being available or not, right? What we're saying is companies should be held directly liable. We feel that it is a crucial element in order for these companies to put the best product out there, right? But what we're saying is that liability quality forces companies to produce a great product. How? If companies know that they can lose millions of rands because of a product that causes detriment, right? We feel that these companies will make sure that their means of productions are up to standard, Mr. Speaker, right? Oh, Mr. Chair. We feel that it incentivizes them to produce a product that causes less harm, both in design and in manufacturing. That's why we beg to oppose today's motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that speech. Look back to the proposition and call upon the government work. Hear, hear.
Now, what we get from opening, let me first begin with my rebuttals. What we get from opening opposition is that they need to remove the middleman because the middleman is useless to the people and is useless to the companies. Now, what they are forgetting to see is that the companies are always looking out for the best interest of the companies, and the middleman is looking out for the best interest of the consumers, which is who we are concerned about. What we are looking at are the consumers. So we need the middleman. So them coming here and telling us that the middleman is useless is in fact a lie, because the middleman is who we need to protect the consumers. Now, two, I'd like to delve into my next point of rebuttal. When they tell us that, no, the companies are not greedy. The companies are giving us a parallel system where they look out for the consumers and for themselves. That isn't true. If that point in itself was true, why are we having so many cases of people getting ill, so many people getting hurt by the products given to us by these companies, which is what they are failing to attest to? Now, they're telling, now, two. Yes,
so the thing is under your model, there is no harm that's actually going to be addressed in the case that there is a harm. Under ours, there is. Both of them are problems.
Okay. So you're telling us that both of them are problems. Let me tell you why yours is the actual failure in this, because ours protects the consumers, and yours, as you've given us, as both sides of both benches, is that no, it gives companies an incentive to produce best products. Now, properly, let's look at this. They're saying the incentive of companies to produce the best products is because they will be sued when they don't produce proper products. Now, as closing government, we believe that is a lie, because actually that isn't an incentive. An incentive is a middleman who's there to check what you're doing is right, and an incentive is a middleman who's there to tell you that no, this is harmful, go back and think about it, sit down. That is what an incentive is. But they're telling us that the incentive that is that people will sue is a lie, because it's useless to sue. There is a people spend exorbitant amounts of money on healthcare, and the legislative system, which is what we're giving you, on closing government, that they have to spend a lot of money to find out what actually happened and what made them sick and get a cure, and then they have to spend exorbitant amounts of money on legislation trying to sue these companies with a potentially low chance of actually winning the case. Therefore, people can spend a lot of money trying to fight these companies and lose, and the consumers are left in the pit without any help and no one taking accountability, because in the courts, the company won. Yes, sir, before I move on.
So, in your policy, right, that I've already outlined that harm can still happen, right? Please address the fact that how do those consumers hold these businesses accountable if these harms do so happen under your policy?
How do they, what you are coming here and telling us that no, if there's a harm to these people, then there's someone who needs to be held accountable.
Yeah.
But what you are failing to see is that is the job of the middleman in himself, to ensure that it doesn't happen, and should sit down and take you now. It shouldn't happen at all. That is what a middleman is for, because your people will check it and our middleman will check it again to ensure that it doesn't happen. Therefore, the cases won't be happening. Now, let me move on to what we've given you as side closing government. We've given you that these companies produce exorbitantly, they produce a lot of products without checking them, and what they are thinking of is competition, instead of thinking of consumer. Now that is problematic, and that is what my partner has highlighted, that no, the purpose, one, companies sit down. that companies should consider the people and the people's health instead of thinking of profits and only profits. As with the side closing government was giving you that, we put forward the health of the people more than profits, because the people are what. Sit down. Because the people are those who are most important to us, and that what is the role of this third party, which is to protect the people. Because if there is no third party, who will protect the people under your model? There's no one looking out for the people, because companies will always be looking out for companies. Sit down. Because companies will always be looking out for companies, and companies will not care what happens to the people, because companies are chasing money. Now, two of what we've given you is the loss of consumer trust in companies. This, as we've given you a side trip position, our model also protects your companies, which you are so in love with. That, yes, we'll protect them. Their reputation will be safe, because consumers won't be getting ill. And if consumers aren't getting ill, they'll keep a proper reputation. Since you so love them, we'll keep them safe in our model as well. We are willing to protect them instead of throwing one side under the bus and keeping one side safe. We prefer to keep both sides safe. Sit down, sir, I've taken you enough. Now, two, as it's given you, it is more expensive to cure these accidental products, these illnesses that occur from these products, or these accidents that actually hurt people. And it is simpler to just prevent them. It is easier for us to prevent all of this than instead of allowing people to get ill and then telling them, no, go to the lawyer, which is more expensive. One, the healthcare on its own is expensive. Two, the lawyer is expensive himself. It's better to just prevent it from happening, because if we prevent it from happening, sit down, so I'm taking you know. If we prevent it from happening, we are keeping the people safe, and we are giving the companies what they want. Now, two, we've given you the role of this agency, and the role of this agency is to protect the people. Now, diving deeper into the analysis of health. Now, what they are failing to see is, side closing opposition, what they are failing to see is that should these people cure an uncurable disease, what is the use of the money then? What is the use of having money when I'll be living with this incurable disease that no matter how much money I get, I can't change it? It is useless then. Two, what they are failing to see is, yes, if let's just say, hypothetically, should these people die, what happens then? Who will be there to investigate? And even if there should be someone who investigates, then what is the use of this money when you're already dead? Because I don't want my father dead. I want him alive. I want him here with me. And should he die, should I sue the company and get the money? It won't make me happy. Him being alive will make me happy. That is what they're failing to see. They're failing to see that the people are more important than the money. What have we given you as side closing government? We've given you that it's more expensive to cure these effects than to prevent them. We've given you the role of the third party, which is the middleman, as they like to call him. We've given you the good side of what we are giving to the companies themselves and how we protect their reputation. And we've given you the health harms to the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your speech, and for the final speech in this round, we hear the government.
So panel, the way I will be structuring my little speech today is first I'll be dealing with OG's case and what they presented, and next I'll be dealing with what CG did, what CG did and what they presented, and lastly I'll be just reinforcing my own speaker's case. So firstly, let's look at the case that OG presented. And here I've identified three main things that OG brought up for us. And the first was this idea in the Prime Minister's speech that we need experts' knowledge, and that's why we need this third party, right? So we think that most of the time, if a product fails and a harm is caused, it's pretty obvious. Like if I'm driving my car and the brakes fail and I cause an accident, it's pretty obvious that my brakes failed, and that's the reason that I was in an accident. Or if, for example, the product that I bought just doesn't work or causes a harm, like it's pretty obvious that it was the fault of the product. And we think that this is not, like you don't need the expert's knowledge, so we don't think that that analysis stands. Then secondly, they have this idea that like, oh, their model provides the best protection to the consumer, and to that we just say no. So firstly, they provided this analysis of like consumers are really weak and companies are like overpower them because they have all these access to legal resources. but they didn't give you an option for when checks fail. So we think that it's physically impossible, like they brought up in their POI that they think that they'll be able to like check every single thing that happens all the time if they prioritize it. And we think that it's probably not possible to do that because you're having billions of products that are coming into the market, and we don't think it's possible to check every single unit. And we think that there are many instances where these checks just don't work and where companies actually trick to pass these checks, like the idea of Volkswagen where like they tricked the emissions tests. So we think that there are many cases where the companies will just, like, there are still possibilities for harms to be caused, even if there are these third parties. So we don't think that their mechanism offers the best protection for consumers because there are still ways in which damage can occur. Then lastly, they said that like companies can be held wrongfully liable if the blame lays with someone else. Like they had the example of how if the shop didn't store the product properly. And we think that our mechanism of liability still works because you have to prove causation and you have to prove a link between like the harm that was caused and the actual producer themselves. And like, so if it was the fault of the middleman, then the companies can just prove with their vast legal resources that like, hey, it was the fault of the the shop or whatever. So we don't think that that means that liability isn't going to work. We actually think that liability cases for this as is. And we think that they totally failed to provide backup mechanisms like what if these checks fail? So that's why we think that OG is no longer relevant in today's market. So next, there's this thing. Next, I'm going to deal with a case that closing government board. Sorry. So the first main argument that they brought up was this idea of like screw the companies, we prioritize the consumers over the companies. So on the one hand, they're saying like screw the company, and then they're saying okay, the companies are actually going to buy into this mechanism because it will mean that their reputation is protected. So firstly, we think that it's not important to protect the company's reputation because this is already happening under our mechanism. We think it's much more detrimental if the company has to undergo a lawsuit that they lose. That's detrimental to their reputation. But under their mechanism, if the company is to blame and something does go wrong, their reputation isn't harmed because they can just say like it's the fault of the third party for not picking it up, and that's why we think that analysis doesn't stand. And we don't think that it's actually going to be we actually think that it's going to be detrimenting consumers more so. Then the next thing that they talked about was like incentivization and like what will incentivize companies to put the best products out there. So we think that firstly, I've already told you how even with quality checks, it's impossible to check every unit. And even if you could, there are lots of examples where it just doesn't work. So we don't think that this is going to incentivize companies to get the best products out there. We think it's going to incentivize companies to produce the product as cheaply as possible and then get by these tests, not necessarily protect the consumers. We think that if they are liable to the consumers, that's when they're going to be most likely to actually make consumers that will be least likely to harm the products because the consumers can actually hold them accountable. Yeah, sure.
You still haven't engaged how the positioning of the legal system and a lack of access to legal avenues means that the consumer can't access the legal processes.
Okay, cool. So here again, you're bringing up this argument that like companies are inherently superior because they have all this money. So to that we say, firstly, under status quo, we already have consumers that are accessing the legal system through things like pro bono cases, which was brought up by the open opposition, and through things like legal aid. And we think that if the harm caused was really bad, that consumers would probably still be able to access the legal system. So that's why liability works, even in these cases. So, and that actually deals with what closing government also brought up, because they also brought up this point of access to the legal system. So there I just dealt with like two birds with one stone. So next, so the last point that the closing government brought up was like, what if there is a permanent harm, then your mechanism doesn't help, we have to try and prevent it. And he brought up the example of like his dad dying. So to that we say, what if these checks fail? Because we've already shown you that these companies probably have the resources to either trick these tests or to like get by them, and it's probably impossible to check every unit. So wouldn't you rather, if your dad then does die, to have a mechanism to actually hold the company accountable, rather than being like, oh shit, well we tried to check to prevent all these issues, but we couldn't. So now your dad's dead. Like now you have no way of holding anybody accountable, and he's still dead. So we think that that's just really a bad thing. Then lastly, they spoke about like trying to change the mindset of the companies from like competition to consumer. But we think that like our mechanism actually is what makes the companies more consumer orientated, because it's more likely to care about what the consumer is going to do if the consumer can hold you liable rather than a third party. So that is why neither of the government cases stand. So ladies and gentlemen, my member of opposition, proved to you firstly that liability offers maximum protection to the consumers, because it provides the protection for consumers even when these checks have failed, and especially in cases where they wouldn't otherwise be protected under the model that is presented by government. Secondly, we prove that liability as a mechanism actually does work in many cases, and we showed you the things that you have to prove, and that it's not this arbitrary thing that you can just accuse the company and go get millions of rand from them. So we think that it actually prevents companies from enduring unnecessary harm with accusations of the product causing harm because of what you have to prove. And lastly, we think that it incentivizes companies, and I may prove this to you, to maintain the highest standard because they are liable to the consumers directly, and they don't just have to pass some arbitrary checks by third parties. And because we've proven these three things, we think that we win today's debate.
Thank you very much for your speech. I think we can give all 8 speakers another round of applause.